hour has come. We've established a quorum. And any guest or visitor, they can retire behind the rail. We can get started. Thank you. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Pastor Billy Thompson of the Evening Baptist Ministers Conference of Philadelphia and vicinity. He is here today as the guest of Councilwoman Helen. I would ask all members, guests, and visitors to please rise.
Let us pray. O gracious and everlasting Father, we first pause to say thank you for life and forever everything that is good. God, we ask for renewed blessings upon our mayor, our council president, members of city council, and everyone gathered here today. Direct us by thy wisdom, discernment, and love as we engage in meaningful discussion and make decisions that will affect the safety and prosperity of the children, the seniors, the rich and the poor of our great city, Philadelphia. Father, continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor, for those inspiring words. Council will be at ease. Thank you. Thank you so much. The next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, March 1, 2018, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, March 1st, 2018 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, March 1, 2018 stand approved. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. The next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman HENON.
Thank you, Council President. On behalf of the majority, there are no requests of leave of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair now recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Republicans, there are no requests for leave of absence.
Chair thanks the gentleman. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone who has taken time out of their busy day, particularly given the state of the weather today. We really appreciate you coming down. We hope your stay here today is a knowledgeable one, but more importantly, a pleasurable one, so much so that you come back again. So again, thank you for being here. We have no presentations today, so our next order of business is communication, and the chair requested the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages to the Chief Clerk. Mr. Decker, please read those messages from the mayor.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on March 6, 2018, I signed all the bills which were passed by Council at a session on February 22, 2018. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1728 Marlton Avenue, located in the 3rd Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District, pursuant to the requirements of the Commonwealth Land Bank Act. And an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan Number 322 by striking from the city plan and vacating Glenlock Place from McGargy Street to its terminus northeasterly therefrom, striking from the city plan and vacating Dittman Street from a point southwest of Talbot Street to its terminus furtherly southwestwardly therefrom, and striking from the city plan and abandoning a certain drainage right-of-way, which extends between said termini of Glenlock Place and Dittman Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communications?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And the next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Good morning, Mr. President. I offer one bill and one resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 6800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Lead Paint Disclosure to clarify an existing requirement that as a condition of licensing family and child daycare facilities built before March 1978, that such facilities be certified as lead safe or lead free.
Refer to committee.
Me too, right?
And a non-privileged resolution calling for the prompt discharge of METOO Act from the Pennsylvania House Committees on Labor and Industry with an affirmative and favorable recommendation.
Next week's calendar. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I offer one resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 16th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman HENON.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President. One bill and one privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance authorizing Timothy McGurman of St. Joseph's University to construct, own, and maintain a proposed sidewalk cafe and planters encroachment at 2461 through 81 North 54th Street.
Refer to committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing and honoring Joden Floyd for her outstanding leadership as principal of Amy Northwest Middle School and for being awarded the 2018 Lindback Foundation Distinguished Principal Leadership Award.
And that will be on this week's calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I have two privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Legislative Oversight to hold hearings with the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority to examine Philadelphia's financial health and stability.
And that will be on this week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities to hold hearings examining strategies to address traffic congestion in the City of Philadelphia.
This week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two non-privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2520 Potter Street located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Also on next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I have one privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution honoring the Montier family of Philadelphia and Cheltenham and recognizing their historical significance and contributions to our region.
And that will be on this week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
President, I have one privileged resolution today. Primary sponsor, Councilman Jones, and co-sponsors, Council members Gim, Green, Parker, and Blackwell.
A privilege resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act and marking the month of April as Fair Housing Month in the City of Philadelphia.
And that will be on this week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Morning, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer one bill and one resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising requirements for accessory signs located within an area bounded by Juniper Street, East Passyunk Avenue, and Mifflin Street.
Refer to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution also naming the 1300 block of South Broad Street, Jimmy Tayun Way.
And next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I offer one bill co-introduced by Councilman Mark Squilla, and one privileged resolution co-sponsored by Councilmember Squilla, HENON, Reynolds, Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Section 121131 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Electric Vehicle Parking to provide for the discontinued approval of new electric vehicle parking spaces and the expiration of such existing spaces.
That will be referred to committee.
And a privileged resolution recognizing, honoring, and thanking the Second Street Irish Society Pipes and Drums for its important contributions to the rich and diverse cultural fabric of Philadelphia.
And that will be on this week's calendar. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. We have no reports from committee today. So our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. There are no bills on our first reading calendar today, and the chair recognizes Councilman HENON for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the final passes calendar.
My apologies, Council President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up for first and second and final passage calendars today. Bill numbers 171134, 180183, 180184, 180191, 180192, 180194, 180196, 180112, 171109, 171126, 171127, 170995, 170996, 171002, 171003, 171128, 171129, 171130, 180005, 180075, 180006, 180098. All other resolutions and bills are being held.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Before considering our calendar today, we'll have our public comment session. It will go as follows. If you are interested in testifying on a bill or resolution that is on the final passage calendar today, if you have not already done so, you may sign up at the table to my left when your name is called. You go to the middle of the chambers where there's a podium. There's a device on that podium. When the light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we'd ask that you please adhere to our guidelines and conclude your remarks. You will be given 3 minutes to testify. Mr. Decker, call the first name on the list.
Robert Burge. Commenting on 180194.
Good morning.
Morning, Councilman. This bill is talking about our unions. This bill is talking about our unions, and we need to keep our unions strong. We have a problem in this city. Our city workers are getting put out by these people that are coming out of the city. People that live in the city and our union members are getting taken advantage. I know a project that right now is having problems with the builder right now that they're hiring out of city and out of state people, not union people, but just people in general. That saves the employer some money, but it doesn't help the unions, and the unions are really fighting for it because as you see on South Broad Street, you see a big rat up there on South Broad, and the unions are not really getting tired of not having this work, and it's all done. They all wanted. The unions are getting taken advantage of. So, and like the bill said, it's not just for some people. It's for all the the brothers and sisters that work in the unions in the city of Philadelphia, because a lot of the contractors are bringing people out of the state or the city and the state and using their own work just to try to save a buck. But some of the work is shabby, but some of the work, most of the time, if you hire a union person, you know you're going to get a good job. And so please support this bill. And I know that the Supreme Court is going to rule against our unions, but we need to really expect that we need your support. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Joe Denahel, commenting on 180183 and 171129.
Morning.
Morning. This is an official decree of the people in Mandamus Quo Warranto, and as such requires immediate action remedy. Every week, council, mayor, and others transfer private property to the government, probably illegally. Last week, a smart lady asked, why does clergy bless council before each meeting when council, mayor, and others routinely deny and defy God-given rights? Perhaps the clergy should boycott future meetings until public servants actually serve the people. Public servants swear an oath. Perhaps clergy should hold officials accountable for violations of that oath. Laws are like Bibles. Unless they are followed, nothing changes. As public servants, you cannot violate oath, constitution, and laws without penalty. How can officials deny and defy inalienable, inviolable, God-given rights? How can agents and agencies steal my home without compensation, due process, or Seventh Amendment trial by jury? How can government pay a contractor upwards of $100 million, mostly federal taxpayer HUD dollars, to build a mall on my stolen home? Why has no official demanded that the Attorney General investigate and prosecute as required by law? The constitutions require immediate remedy of this breach of law, breach of clause, breach of fiduciary duty. Your oath of office requires you to act or face prison. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987. 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 2381, 2384. PA Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 through 11. 26 PA CSA, 703, 705, 708, 709, 712, 713, 716, and other laws listed in SCOTUS 158965, 141330, 144056 appear violated. I call for the federal and commonwealth governments to perform their constitutional obligations to investigate and prosecute all involved in the theft and illegal deed transfer of my home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue. The denial of God-given 42 U.S.C. 1982 property rights for 24 years is egregious, extraordinary oath violating, and requires immediate remedy. A just government must obey the rule of law. This color law government must have its charter to govern revoked until a constitutionally compliant government is installed. Public servants cannot refuse their sworn duty to act any more than a fireman can refuse to fight a fire. The sovereign people require Constitution, oath, and laws be enforced. Jail is required for all who violate oath, Constitution, or law. I remind council It takes a lot of cooperation to create and allow monumental corruption.
Thank you.
Robert Taylor, commenting on 180191.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert Taylor, president of TW Local 700 and WPEB 88.1 FM, co-host on the Jasper Jones Show, and a board member for the Friends of Wharton Square. I'm commenting on Resolution 180191. I don't support this resolution because I completely support S446, entitled Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017, which requires states to recognize licenses or permits from other states. It's beyond debate. The people have the right to keep and bear arms pursuant to Article 1, Section 21 of the Constitution for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and of course, part of the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, we should remove barriers for law-abiding citizens to carry arms as part of their ability to defend themselves and others around them, such as the Parkland School Massacre. In Parkland, Florida, those that were assigned by the government to protect the innocent failed to do their duty. However, brave, yet unarmed teachers, such as Aaron Fells, the hero football coach, who took bullets in order to protect the students under his care and custody. This brave individual was an NRA instructor who took multiple gunshots and should have had the benefit of a gun to shoot back to save the children and himself. Sadly, Aaron paid the ultimate price. Or geography teacher, Bill, was killed as he tried to usher students back into his classroom. The bottom line is that the victim is always at the scene of the crime. He or she should have a chance to protect their life, liberty, or property, and those around them. The Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017 is a step in the right direction. Also, I support Senator Rand Paul's bill to repeal gun-free school zones that have proved to be a disastrous policy that murderers will never obey. And I support the PA legislation aimed at arming teachers. More Guns, Less Crime. The book by Professor John Lott makes a strong case that more guns in the hands of good folks lowers violent crime rates. Council members took an oath to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the people or the citizens therein. Please support the inherent rights of mankind. God bless Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
There are no other speakers in the public comment.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, if you can please read the title of 171134.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter relating to the provision of mandatory annual training for all city officers and employees regarding sexual harassment in the workplace and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Is this the resolution of the bill? Is it the resolution? Move for the adoption.
Thank you. Because this resolution, number 171134, is a proposed amendment to the Home Rule Charter, it requires 2/3 vote. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman HENON. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnar Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Two-thirds of all members counting have been voting in the affirmative. Resolution number 171134 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, 180-183.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 15th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 180-183 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 180-189.
A resolution calling on the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association to revise their rules on religious head coverings for student athletes.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. 180-189 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 180-191.
A resolution urging the Senate to reject S-446, entitled Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017, which requires states to recognize licenses or permits from other states, no matter how permissive their licensing standards.
And Chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution 180-191 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 180-192.
A resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Grays Ferry urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2600 through 2602 Wharton Street.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson again.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. 180-192 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 180-194.
A resolution affirming the strong support of the City of Philadelphia for public sector workers whose rights and freedoms are threatened as the Supreme Court considers Janus versus AFS-CME and recognizing the important role unions play in raising standards for all workers.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm.
Very much, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and Resolution 180-194 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 180-196.
A resolution apologizing to the People's Republic of China for the damage caused by a visitor to Philadelphia to a World Heritage artifact loaned by the Shaanxi Cultural Heritage Promotion Center to the Franklin Institute.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. Move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution 180-196 is adopted. All right. Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the title 180-112.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the educational supplement to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter relating to the eligibility, selection, and removal of the members of the Board of Education, relating to the Board of Education's responsibility for the administration of the school district, creating a Parent and Community Advisory Council, and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia.
This bill has been heard on two separate Ms. Tillman. Thank you. Thank you. For once, I am right. Mr. Decker, you're right also. Thank you. Thank you. Little typo. So 180-1112 may say it's ordinance on your calendars. It's actually a resolution. So the chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. Because resolution number 180-1112 is a proposed amendment to the Home Rule Charter, it requires two-thirds vote. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman HENON. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Corina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Two-thirds of all members having voted in the affirmative, resolution number 180-112 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 171-109.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia the proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter relating to the provision of mandatory training for city officers and employees regarding sexual harassment in the workplace.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman HENON. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Corina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16 and the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171-126.
An ordinance amending Chapter 10800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Safety by repealing certain provisions relating to police and fire radio broadcasts.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman HENON. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Corina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171-127.
An ordinance repealing Chapter 13700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Garbage Disposal Units.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman HENON. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Corina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 170-995.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Ridge Avenue, Paoli Avenue, Umbria Street, Fountain Street, Manioc Avenue, Gate Street, Pekin Street, and Fountain Street.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman HENON. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Corina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 170996.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Henry Avenue, Valley Avenue, Domino Lane North, Ridge Avenue, Harmon Road, Fowler Street, Domino Lane, Silverwood Street Extended, Parker Avenue, Peckin Street Extended, Fountain Street, Peckin Street, and Hermitage Street.
This bill has been read on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Conan Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171002.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Kensington Avenue, Adams Avenue, Leeper Street Extended, Frankfort Creek, Castor Avenue, Wyoming Avenue, G Street, and Erie Avenue.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Conan Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171003.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Allegheny Avenue, 2nd Street, Lehigh Avenue, and 6th Street.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Conan Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16 and the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171128.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Moore Street, 6th Street, McClellan Street, and 7th Street.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. Question, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Conan Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171129.
An ordinance adopting an amendment to the Articles of Incorporation of the South Street Head House District of Philadelphia to extend the term of that authority.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Conan Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 171130.
An ordinance approving the plan, estimated costs, and proposed method of assessment and charges of the South Street Head House District of Philadelphia for and concerning business improvements and administrative services to the eastern South Street and Head House areas of the city of Philadelphia.
This bill has been read on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Conan Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 180005.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Euclid Street, 53rd Street, Moore Street, and Georges Lane.
This bill has been read on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Canona Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. Councilwoman Parker said aye. Aye. Ayes are 16, nays are 0. Majority of members present, voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 180-075.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Ashton Road, Old Ashton Road, Welsh Road, Axe Factory Road, Winchester Avenue, Home Avenue, and Home Circle.
This bill has been read on two separate days. Question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Canona Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 16, nays are 0. Majority of members present, voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 180-006.
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2018 from the Grants Revenue Fund, the Director of Finance provision for other grants, to the General Fund, the Managing Director.
This bill has been read on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Canona Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present, voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 180-098.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the educational supplement to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter relating to the eligibility, selection, and removal of members of the Board of Education, relating to the Board of Education's responsibility for the administration of the school district, creating a parent and community advisory council, as approved by resolution of the City Council, fixing the date of a special election for such purpose, prescribing the form of ballot question to be voted on, and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice and to make arrangements for the special election.
This bill has been read on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Canona Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members present, voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and honoring Joden Floyd for her outstanding leadership as principal of AMY Northwest Middle School for being awarded the 2018 Lindback Foundation Distinguished Principal Leadership Award, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Legislative Oversight to hold hearings with the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority to examine Philadelphia's financial health and stability, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities to hold hearings examining strategies to address traffic congestion in the City of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring the Montier family of Philadelphia and Cheltenham and recognizing their historical significance and contributions to our region, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it.
And a resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act and marking the month of April as Fair Housing Month in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. Move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Mr. Decker, hold on 1 second. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as voting aye on all bills and resolutions.
Thank you.
Thus far. Thank you.
The record shall reflect that. Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Decker, please proceed.
A resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act and marking the month of April as Fair Housing Month in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. Move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing, honoring, and thanking the 2nd Street Irish Society Pipes and Drums for its important contributions to the rich and diverse cultural fabric of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions of the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for the day. Are there any speeches on behalf of the majority? I'm sorry, the minority. Was that from before? It's good? Okay. Thank you. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Yes, Mr. President, 2 announcements. First, a huge thank you to all of my colleagues for the enormous support of the women of City Council in the 2nd reading and final passage of the legislation to mandate sexual harassment training. That was a we effort, and want to remind my colleagues of a press conference immediately following council. And secondly, a Food Resources 101 briefing will follow the press conference in the caucus room, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my understanding that today is International Women's Day. And I'm not the only male member of this body who has stood up for issues germane to women's protection and women's rights. I take the lead from Councilman Greenlee and Councilman Johnson, who fought for more beds for abused women, and long before the Me Too movement started, they were on point. But I also wore my Men Can button today, which was given to us maybe several years ago, about men speaking out about violence, domestic violence, on behalf of women. And I found a button, I put it on specifically to Rise Today to talk about extreme risk protection orders. And what they simply are is when somebody tells you they're going to come in and shoot up the place, believe them and take a proactive step to unarm them, diffuse the situation. I want to bring an example of a lady who many of you in this chamber may have known or heard of. Her name was Mame Shamsuddin. Mame Shamsuddin was a city employee for the office, I believe it was Mox. She was in the office out at 52nd and Chestnut in West Philadelphia. She had a relationship with an individual who could not take no for an answer when it was time to move on and break it off. She had begun talking to another individual who the first man knew about. He was making threatening gestures. He came at her. It was a physical encounter. He was taken down to the police station, and almost in a good old boy, you understand it kind of manner, the police said, well, we don't want to ruin your life. We aren't going to take your guns. We know how it is, man. A week after that, he came back and shot her in the head, killing her and the man she was with. Had we believed at that time what the gentleman said or guy said, that he was dangerous and he was upset and he was going to kill her, we should have believed him then. Thousands of people, ever since Sandy Hook, have been shot and some of them killed. There have been 1,126 mass shootings in the United States since that time, killing 1,252 people, wounding 4,453 other people. This number includes 239 shootings at schools, where 438 people were shot, 138 of them were killed. Had the extreme risk protection order been in existence, and people get mad about things, they get in fights, they lose their mind at time, there should be a cooling off period. They should go through a court-stipulated process to show competency so that individuals don't find themselves, and innocent individuals don't find themselves in a domestic or extreme risk situation. These restraining orders are done in other places. These restraining orders can be done without violating Second Amendment rights. These in places like California, Oregon, Indiana, Connecticut, lawmakers in 18 other states, including Florida and DC, have proposed similar measures. It's time. This is not a bad Western movie that we're living in. Literally, there are some weekends where more people are shot and killed in cities around the country than in any Clint Eastwood movie. It's a shoot 'em up that we can prevent. So we want to take a look at this. We have sent a copy of this to the sheriff's office. We have asked and met with the city solicitor. We have broached this subject with the district attorney's office. We want to find out several things, Mr. President. One, is it within our purview to do? If it already is, why aren't we doing it? And are we selectively doing it? And then ultimately, we need to rise to the occasion to protect ourselves and others in a sensible manner. Nobody should be able to have a gun that has mental issues and are under distress. It is easier to get a gun and a weapon of mass destruction than it is to get a driver's license. It does not make sense. We're America, but we also have to live among each other in a peaceful manner. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm.
Thank you very much, Council President. And thank you
Welcome.
so much, Councilman Jones, for that passionate speech. It was supporting you all the way on that. Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to thank my colleagues for all your support and attention to the issue of workplace instability on children and youth. I know that I serve on this council with some fearless champions of economic justice, from Council President Clark to Council Members Greenlee, Reynolds Brown, Blackwell, Jones, and Quinones Sanchez. Your leadership in this area has been incredibly invaluable. And on Tuesday, we had a hearing on the impact of on-call scheduling, unpredictable work, and inadequate hours, and the impact that that has on some of our most vulnerable constituents. There are more than 130,000 hourly workers in the lowest wage sectors in our city of food service, retail, and hospitality. More than half of them can't predict their weekly income, and that means that they can't, by extension, understand what their rent can be, how they're paying for childcare and other services. We heard from courageous workers who talked about calling in on Saturday and Sunday for work that starts on Monday, and then not knowing the hours that they end up with on Friday. We heard from young people who struggled to go to school, mothers who can't qualify for childcare subsidies, and nurses who talk constantly about missed appointments. We heard from a principal of a CTE school who worried about the students who will graduate and go out into a workforce that feels far more exploitative than it does feel opportunistic for them. There's few health benefits, no overtime, pensions, or very few protections for a lot of these hourly workers. And at the same time, there are those in council who will say to us that council has no business, quote unquote, meddling in these areas. But I know that my esteemed colleagues have met those concerns and have still established a proud and historic legacy for standing up for the public interest. And I just wanted to give a brief update from the hearing because it just demonstrates how vulnerable people are and how courageous people had to be just to even talk about what their lives are like. One of the young men who came forward was Shaheem Wright. He's a 19-year-old volunteer drum instructor for Northeast High School. He walks 2 miles a day to get to work because the buses don't run on time for him to open up his store early enough at PetSmart. He also had to drop out of school. He wants to be a veterinarian, but he dropped out of school so he could open up his schedule for more availability. But he did ask for more hours. He asked for a more stable schedule for him to go back to school. And on Wednesday, we learned that Shaheem was fired from his job for asking for hours, for asking for a stable schedule. And what I want to say is that these are folks who need us tremendously. There aren't that many protections for them. And the stakes are high. And all they were doing is talking about what's happening, about speaking out, and what it means to talk about sharing their lives. There are enormous consequences for it, but I know this body has the ability to hear all of that. I am committed to a process and a dialogue. And I want my colleagues to know that my door will always be open. I'm going to continue to work on this. I know that these things take time, but our people need us, and people are really struggling right now. So I want to thank my colleagues so much for the time that they took to listen to the testimony, to hear from people, and to understand the potential role that council can play in setting standards in an economy that sure feels like it doesn't have that many. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly agree with all that has been said here today. And on a lighter note, I saw this morning, and we wanted to let everybody know that today is the birthday of one of our colleagues, and we're happy to say to Councilman David O., happy birthday from each and every one of us.
Happy birthday, sir.
And God bless you. Thank
To
you.
the audience, we promise we will not sing. Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I was going to tell everyone it's my birthday, but Councilman Blackwell beat me to it. No, on a note of personal privilege, let me just say it's my pleasure to point out that behind me, my friend and attorney Nick Panarella Jr. Has joined us from Florida. He's an attorney. He's also a former U.S. Army Green Beret, having served during the Vietnam War. He's currently Director of External Communications for the National Headquarters of the Special Forces Association, and my former company commander in Company C, 1st Battalion, 20th Special Forces Group. Wishing him well with his slate as he is running for Vice President of the National Association, and thanking him for his service and for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you being here. And good luck. Chair recognizes Councilman HENON.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to say, oh, it's the councilman's birthday, but I'm the only one that laughs at my own jokes.
It's all good.
In any case, thank you for recognizing me. Again, as Councilwoman had said, on a lighter note, just want to remind everybody that we are in the midst of St. Patrick's Month, and on behalf of our parade, St. Patrick's Day observance board committee president Bill Ivers and myself as a board member, we would invite all of you to join us in marching in celebration of the Irish culture, dance, and music and celebration this Sunday, the 11th. We're meeting at 11 o'clock at 16th and JFK for those who are interested in celebrating Mass. Mass starts at 9 o'clock sharp at St. Patrick's Church, 19th and Locust. So in any case, it would be this Saturday or Sunday, the 11th, 11 o'clock, gathering at 16th and JFK. Would love to have all members, as most members do, join us. Please come out and celebrate with 25,000 other people in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes the speeches on behalf of the minority and majority. With that, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 15th, 2018 at 10 a.m.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you all very much.